Welcome, TAPAS listeners, to my retrospective podcast on the Little Mermaid TV series. I am Sage Man. For those of you just joining us, I've spent the past year consuming vast amounts of Disney-related media to gather inspiration for Keys and Kingdoms, a loosely Disney-inspired role-playing game setting. For my thoughts on Disney's various feature films and how they impact the Keys and Kingdoms universe, consult the TAPAS and Stuff Productions podcast. The thumbnails will show you what Disney films I watched that episode, and there are time codes in the descriptions to get you there. It's usually the final segment. But right now, you're here to hear about the Little Mermaid series. Of all the Disney Renaissance era TV series on my list, this one was the easiest to come by when I started this project. If not the only one, it was actually possible to come by. It occasionally airs on Disney Junior, it's on Amazon Video, and is now available on Disney+. I'll be watching it on Disney+, even though I bought it on Amazon Video some time ago because I intended to do this retrospective before Disney+ was out, but I've fallen so very far behind schedule. Gargoyles and the Hercules series are also on Disney+, but the Aladdin and Tarzan TV shows are not, as of the service's launch, which is concerning. I'm not sure what I'll do when the time comes to start looking at those series. I'm sure they're on the dark web somewhere. Might be time to pirate them. Yar. I'm overusing that joke. Every time I talk about pirating something, I go, yar. But that's a question for another day. Today, I start watching the Little Mermaid TV series. The series aired for 3 seasons from 1992 to 1994. Short seasons with a mere 31 episodes between them, and takes place before the movie, obviously, since Ariel's a mermaid in it. When I was first conceiving of Keys and Kingdoms, I knew that merfolk would be one of the 10 core races of the setting, one of the kinds of people that define the world, and I knew that The Little Mermaid and its franchise would help me figure out the merfolk environment and culture, especially this very TV series. I'm debating on what merfolk look like in the Keys and Kingdoms setting. When I thought of designing mermaids for a fantasy setting of my own, I had the notion that they're almost supernaturally beautiful, but might also have a dorsal fin, slightly webbed hands, some scales on their human half, still unbelievably attractive, but in an exotic nautical way. Or maybe not. Maybe I just go with the Disney model where they're fishy from the waist down and totally human-looking hot babes from the waist up. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. At this particular moment, I'm leading toward the totally human from the waist up direction, but I don't need to make a final decision until such a time as I actually introduce a mermaid into a Keys and Kingdoms story, and I don't have any of those yet. Or not necessarily a story, if I just write the RPG sourcebook. Anyway, let's talk about the series premiere episode, Whale of a Tale, which is not on Disney+. How odd. But fortuitous. I guess I bought the Amazon version for a reason. Fate has a way of guiding me in the right direction despite my stupid decisions. Still, why would they exclude the first episode of the series? I know it's about an orca. Did an orca kill somebody recently? That's the only reason I can think of, like how Disney media was suspiciously devoid of alligators and crocodiles for a short time after a little kid got attacked by an alligator at Disney World. Perhaps by watching the episode it will become clear why they excluded it. Anyway, every other episode of the show is on Disney+, so I guess this first one will be the only one I watch on Amazon. So we start with the theme song, which is an instrumental medley of all the songs from the film, so naturally it's a total banger. The title spells tale as in story. They don't see the need to make a pun out of it, so respect there. Our series opens on a pod of orcas being harpooned. Way to open a show, Disney! The pod's lone baby gets separated from the rest of them and is soon found by Ariel and Flounder, who get no introduction. I guess they assume we've seen the movie. Ariel names the baby Spot for the white spot on his tail and decides to take him home with her. And she sings to him. I'd forgotten that this show has musical numbers. I saw more of the Aladdin series as a kid than this one, and the Aladdin series didn't have songs in it. I noticed that in a lot of animation, cetaceans, especially of the toothed variety, are often used as the aquatic equivalent of dogs, in that they're non-anthro. Ever notice that? That in a lot of animation, the only non-anthro character is the dog? Well, I just noticed that the same tends to apply to the whale in nautical settings. Anyway, Spot makes a mess of Ariel's bedroom. Clearly, orcas have a terrible reputation in this universe. Flounder calls them killer whales. The real-life reputation of these creatures has gone back and forth over the years. Used to be we saw them as, killer whales, the deadliest things in the sea. Then we came to understand that dolphins are intelligent and social and friendly. Now we know that dolphins are intelligent and social and total fucking sadistic psychopaths. Again, that's the only reason I can think of for why this episode isn't on Disney+, but It's on Amazon, and Spot is central to at least one other episode, and that episode's on Disney+. Anyway, Ariel knows that what she's doing is liable to get her in trouble. She hides Spot from Sebastian and plays innocent when she's found out. I suppose that's in character for her. She's a bit of a chaotic type. I can see, based on this moment alone, why Ariel as a character doesn't please everyone. There's an implication that there will be a concert held in 3 months, and at first I thought that referred to the concert at the beginning of the movie, that they were establishing a timeline, but no, in the next scene we cut to 3 months later. Spot has grown to adult size, and Ariel still hasn't been busted for keeping him. Until the concert. Spot turns up during Sebastian's solo and quite literally brings down the house, and Sebastian actually made that joke a second after I wrote it down. Meh. King Triton scolds our main trio for keeping this from him all this time, and gives them 2 weeks to teach Spot how to survive out in the wild. Well, they can't do that. As we know, Ariel and Sebastian are bards, not druids. So they try to teach Spot self-defense through role-playing, but Spot is too skittish to even take out Flounder. Sebastian is adamant that Spot has to sleep outdoors now, and there's a great transition where Spot is indeed sleeping outdoors, but Ariel, Flounder, and Sebastian are snuggling with him. The next morning, a trio of sharks attack. Spot flees at first, but eventually works up the nerve to rescue the trio, fighting the sharks off. It's very triumphant. The set piece of this chase and battle is a very interesting reef that seems to be made of red glass? How peculiar. Anyway, after defeating the sharks, Spot happens to hear his pod passing by and returns to them. After that bittersweet farewell, our trio return home. So, credits. Wait, written by Peter S. Beagle? Author of The Last Unicorn, Peter S. Beagle? What the hey? That's amazing, because I actually thought, but didn't write down, that the moment where Spot gains the courage to fight the sharks reminded me a lot of the unicorn fighting the Red Bull. No wonder Peter S. Beagle friggin' wrote it. That's incredible. Our voice cast. Well, Jodie Benson, Samuel Lee Wright, and Ken Mars reprise their respective roles from the movie as Ariel, Sebastian, and Triton. Flounder is now played by Eden Gross, because characters voiced by adolescent boys tend to go through voice actors the way adolescent boys go through tissues and aerosol deodorant. They just don't stay fit for the role for very long. I believe Eden Gross would find himself replaced before this show was even ended. Our only other speaking role in this episode is the Seahorse, who, if the credits are to be believed, is now played by Jim Cummings instead of Will Ryan. Well, I knew that wasn't Will Ryan, but that didn't sound like Jim Cummings either. Well, this was 27 years ago. Maybe it was young Jim Cummings. So yeah, that was the premiere episode. No idea why it's not on Disney+, but if you want to watch it, it's still available on Amazon. I can't incentivize you to buy it too hard, but, you know, it's the premiere. The show would feel a little incomplete if you didn't watch it first, right? Right? Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Man, what do I care? I don't have a dog in this fight. Episode 2, The Great Sebastian, opens with Ariel and Flounder playing some sort of bubble-popping game and musing about how valuable Sebastian is to King Triton. With that in mind, Sebastian gets a little overzealous in his handling of Triton's personal effects that need to be cleaned. Triton is hoping to make peace with a race called the Sharkanians, and Sebastian claims to be an expert on their culture, so Triton names him ambassador. Ariel can tell from Sebastian's reaction that his boasting was all a lie, so she and Flounder follow him there, hoping to help, or perhaps watch him get eaten. Who knows with Ariel? I kid, of course. So the Sharkanians are basically Sahuagin, humanoid sharks with a lot of shark motifs in their culture. Weird thing about D&D, how every animal-like race uses animals that resemble themselves. Lizard folk train giant lizards and drakes and stuff, bullywugs train giant frogs, gnolls train hyenas, Sahuagin train sharks. Doesn't make much sense. I mean, human culture doesn't revolve around training monkeys and apes to do our bidding. We win with the horse and the grey wolf. Kobolds and goblins fare a bit better. While kobolds are reptilian and goblins more humanoid, kobolds employ rats and weasels, while goblins use bats and wolves and stuff. Off script, I just realized while I was saying that if this is your first Tapas video, you have no idea why I'm talking about D&D in this Disney retrospective. Well, like I said, Keys and Kingdoms. It's using Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules because that's legal. They're published open source, so, rather than invent my own rule system, I'm using one that's free, what do you call it? I think the word I'm going for is open source. Anyway, back to the script. My point being, the Sharkanians shall no doubt provide me with some solid inspiration for what Sahuagin are like in the Keys and Kingdoms universe. Let's find out. We know so far that they're rather warlike and devious. The guard at the door to their kingdom, the whole kingdom has a door, is voiced by Jim Cummings, but he sounds like he's trying really hard to sound like Jim Cummings, if that makes any sense. Maybe he just sounded a lot different early in his career. The seahorse appeared earlier in the episode, and I could scarcely believe that was him, Young Jim Cummings. Who knows? Sebastian is taken before Emperor Shaga. So the Sharkanians are ruled by emperors. Sahuagin are traditionally ruled by barons, but I do remember Baldur's Gate 2 had a rather lengthy subplot about a Sahuagin king and prince. And Sahuagin are free to use. They're not trademarked. Kuo-toa are D&D trademarks, but Sahuagin are not. And I like Sahuagin, so I'm glad for that. Anyway, Emperor Shaga. He's also voiced by Jim Cummings, who appears to be doing Marlon Brando for the role. So Sahuagin are the Sea Mafia? Shaga agrees to the peace conference, to Sebastian's surprise. Ariel and Flounder explore the outskirts of the Sharkanian kingdom, a land of weeds and eels and shipwrecks. They come upon a trio of Sharkanian soldiers who exposit clunkily that the treasure they're sending back to Atlantica with Sebastian is in fact a luminescent eel which will signal to the Sharkanian troops to attack Atlantica. Well, that's not very nice. That's lame and underhanded. Other soldiers capture the pair of them in a net. Trying to pin down what real-life culture may have inspired the Sharkanians. Doesn't look like much of anything. They wear breastplates and vambraces, which look to be made of bronze and copper. That's vaguely Greek, but their helmets are just nautical-themed. And of course, Emperor Shaga is a Vito Corleone knockoff, so there's some Sicilian mafia in there. I don't know. I guess the showrunners weren't going for anything in particular with their culture. The Sharkanians force Ariel to write a letter to Sebastian telling him to return to Atlantica without them. We briefly get a look at the note, which is written in a strange series of glyphs. Ariel signed her name in English in the movie, or rather, Latin, since, it's her name. Her name's the same in any language, but she used Latin letters, which English is written in. But perhaps this note is the script that merfolk actually use, explaining why she couldn't just write to explain things to Eric. Okay, I like that. They could have just written the note to say exactly what Sebastian reads, but instead they used this system of glyphs to... Yes, I like the implications. Later that night, Ariel and Flounder trick the dim-witted Sharkanian guarding them into setting them free and allowing them to tie him up. Ariel's charisma score must be through the roof. Sebastian returns to Atlantica, the Sharkanian army waiting on the city's outskirts to destroy Atlantica. Ariel and Flounder sneak past the army to get themselves back into Atlantica. That wasn't a very well-written series of lines. Every sentence ended with Atlantica. Later that night, the two Sharkanian guards that accompanied Sebastian prepare to steal the trident and signal the army, but the Atlanticans have been forewarned by Ariel and Flounder, and Triton chases the army away with his trident, which we see he sleeps with. Cute. The next morning, Ariel and Flounder vouch for Sebastian's cred as an ambassador despite his deception, and Triton accepts this. Episode ends in a Star Wars-style medal ceremony for Sebastian. So, voice cast, same 5 people as in the first episode, and also Charlie Adler. I guess every Sharkanian who wasn't Cummings was Adler. Good on him, I didn't recognize him. And I just realized this episode didn't have a song. I assumed every episode would. Seems I was mistaken. Episode 3, Stormy. It's about a seahorse. Let me guess, it's like an actual horse and she can ride it. Yeah, the Little Mermaid already has a seahorse. He's the Royal Herald, and he's very much like a real seahorse. He's all tiny, but... where's the consistency? I guess Stormy, I'm assuming that's a name, is more of a hippocampus. That's part of your brain, and also a word for a seahorse. So Ariel is swimming around because it's a beautiful day, and she loves to have fun on a beautiful day. Exquisite! She briefly meets with her sisters in that communal vanity room from the movie. The sisters have an expanded role in the series, as I understand. Each one has a unique voice actress and personality. Her sisters don't want to swim around with her, so she drags Flounder and Sebastian along. And that's where they meet Stormy, who Ariel describes as a giant seahorse. Okay, he looks more like an actual giant seahorse than an aquatic horse, so that's good. And giant seahorses already have stats in the 5th edition Monster Manual, so no need to question that. Stormy is extremely aggressive, and whoever does his voice, it's way too obvious that it's a human making horse noises. I watched Beauty and the Beast just last night. Hal Smith played the horse, and he sounded like a horse. You couldn't replicate that? And an elderly merman, played by Jim Cummings, because I guess he just does all the incidental roles in this show, tells Ariel that Stormy cannot be tamed, which instantly makes Ariel vow that someday she'll completely tame and ride him. Conflict, I guess? Ariel goes to ask her father for permission to ride Stormy, because she needs his permission, and instead of asking him about Stormy, she chickens out and asks if Sebastian and Flounder can join the royal family for dinner. How biblical. Forced conflict, I guess? I noticed during the dinner scene that one of Ariel's sisters is chubby in this TV series, when in the movie all 6 sisters had the same figure as Ariel. I remember reading about that, presumably on either TV Tropes or the Disney Wiki. I read such things a lot, but, funny thing, I don't remember anything I read online about shows I haven't actually seen. Go figure. But, kinda makes me immune to spoilers, because I never remember reading about spoilers. But, yeah, I'm hoping this series dives into the personality of all 6 sisters. That'll be neat. The Triton is initially amused by the request to ride Stormy, then angry when he realizes she's serious, that she's apparently learned nothing from her history with dangerous animals, like the giant squid or the killer whale. Hey, that second one is a callback, but Disney Plus viewers won't have any idea about that. I'm sorry, that's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, Ariel pitches a fit, and, I bet this scene will be funny. I was right, it was funny. No, I'm not going to tell you what happened. Some things you have to discover for yourself. Have I mentioned that the musical score in this show is really good? The songs are average, but the score is quite pretty. So Ariel sings to Stormy, and he seems to warm up to her, but Triton catches her disobeying. And the night after that, she does it again, and gets caught again. You can see why her dad's a bit fed up with her by the time the movie rolls around. Stormy rides out into, a storm, and Triton and the old guy from earlier in the episode pursue her. Ariel finds she can't control Stormy, but after a while he gets tired, so they rest, and Ariel is unfazed. This episode's dumb, I'm calling it. So that's definitely Jim Cummings doing Stormy's vocalizations, I could tell now. So 2 octopuses who are on the lookout for wild seahorses try to wrangle Stormy for reasons, I'm sure. Ariel steals him back from them, and ooh, she hit her head and got knocked out. Yikes, that's actually pretty intense, seeing an unconscious Ariel sinking into an abyss, but Stormy saves her and brings her to her father. Ariel awakens in an infirmary of some sort and agrees with her father that Stormy is too wild for her. Triton agrees to release Stormy to the wild instead of trying to sell him, and they do so. Happy ending for a wild beast and for the relationship of father and daughter. And I nearly did a spit take when I learned that the seahorse Triton offers to Ariel instead is named Seabiscuit. That's funny. Okay, credits. This episode had a substantially larger cast than the first 2, and the voice cast is appropriately expanded. In addition to our 4 main characters and Jim, we have Mary Kay Bergman and Cheryl Bernstein playing the 2 of Ariel's sisters who get lines in this episode, and also notable voice actors Pat Fraley, Michael Goff, and Hal Smith. Wait, Hal Smith was in this episode? Was I wrong? Was he Stormy? Then why did Stormy's horse noises suck? Anyway, Mary Kay Bergman, I mentioned her briefly yesterday when I was covering Beauty and the Beast. To elaborate, Mary Kay Bergman was a voice actress who basically came out of nowhere in 1991 and rocked the world. When Adriana Caselotti got too old to play Snow White, Mary Kay took over. She was that decade's Daphne in Scooby-Doo. She was all the female characters on South Park. But her illustrious voice acting career lasted only 8 years, because in '99 she somehow got it in her head that her talent was fading and that her career would soon be over, so she killed herself. And the animation world lost one of its all-time treasures. I've had a few brushes with suicide myself. I've been hospitalized for it 3 times and had to be talked out of it many, many more times than that, but I'm a short-order cook with a YouTube channel with 11 subscribers. Mary Kay was quite possibly the greatest voice actor in the world. I can only imagine what must have been afflicting her to make her think that it was her time to go. I guess what I'm saying is, if you're ever feeling like that, seek help, I don't know who you are, but the world truly can't afford to lose you. Yeah, sorry about that. It's suicide. It's a topic I'm personally invested in because it's practically all I ever think about. Anyway, Episode 4, Urchin, a debut of an aptly named recurring character, unless I'm very much mistaken, which obviously I'm not. The title of the episode is Urchin. I saw a few episodes of the show as a kid on Toon Disney. Remember Toon Disney? Good times. Ooh, I see it's the debut of several recurring characters. Here we meet our first recurring antagonist, the Lobster Mobster, and his sidekick, Da Shrimp, played respectively by Joe Alasky and David Lander. They're stereotypical gangsters, see? And this show is so stupid. Anyway, our duo of baddies have a run-in with our episode's title character, Urchin, a young merboy voiced by some kid. Okay, Danny Cooksey, so not just some kid, but some kid who became an actual voice actor. Nice. Upon learning that Urchin has no parents, the lobster decides to take over his home, and when Urchin puts up a fight, the lobster likes his guts and decides to recruit him into his organization, see? And he gets a musical number. Oh yeah, nothing makes a 1920s gangster more intimidating than when he sings. It's distractingly anachronistic. When is The Little Mermaid set? The 1890s? Okay, I guess they could have had 1920s gangsters in the 1890s. That's not too far off. Urchin's first job as a mobster is to steal them some dinner, and his search takes them near Atlanticus Castle just in time for a grand banquet, the Neptune Ball. At the banquet, Ariel is seated at her father's right hand. You know, Ariel is 7th in line for the throne. Why does she get such preferential treatment? Well, if you believe the third movie, it's because she bears the closest resemblance to her dead mother. Bit creepy. Urchin steals food from the ball, but Ariel and Flounder catch him doing so and go investigate, pursued by Sebastian. I'm noticing a formula in this here show. Ariel is sympathetic to Urchin's plight and befriends him, but Urchin's need to put up a tough front makes their friendship a bit unstable. Sebastian recognizes Urchin's companions as wanted mobsters and reports to the king. Ariel believes Urchin is merely misguided and wants to show him the right path. Oh, that's nice. The lobster mobster takes advantage of the friendship by trapping Ariel in Urchin's house with the intent of holding her for ransom. Urchin sincerely regrets having gotten into this and goes to fetch King Triton so he can save Ariel. Triton is unavailable as he's going on an apology tour about the ball Urchin disrupted, so Urchin decides to have Sebastian pose as Crab Louie, the mob boss that the lobster mobster has been trying to impress. Major props for Samuel E. Wright here for doing an Italian-American mobster accent with Sebastian's normal Jamaican accent. You know, these Disney voice actors, they never talk about what it was like to work on the TV shows. They only ever look back fondly on the movies, but they must have some stories about all the work they put into the characters for the series. Urchin and Sebastian save Ariel, but fail to keep the lobster and shrimp captured. The two gangsters decide to lay low for a while when they meet the real Crab Louie, a true colossus of a crab voiced, unsurprisingly, by Jim Cummings. Somewhat surprisingly with a Cajun accent. Well, he already used his Marlon Brando 2 episodes ago. Only got so many voices, I suppose, you know. Even if he is Jim Cummings, the number is finite. Crab Louie goes after King Triton's treasure vault, but Urchin proves his worth by defeating the great brute. So, yeah, pretty good episode. I'm not crazy about the lobster mobster's shtick, but he being a major character in the series, I guess I have to figure out what he is in Keys and Kingdoms terms. There are no crustacean people in D&D as far as I know, and even the giant crabs in the game are relatively small, nothing like Crab Louie. I'll figure it out later. But that's a commitment of mine, you know, turning every creature in every Disney thing I watch into some statted Keys and Kingdoms creature. I guess what I'm mostly after by watching this series is merfolk culture. Well, I like the snail shells that all the gangster characters wear as little hats. That's a cute accessory. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed hearing about the Little Mermaid TV series, give the video a like and the channel a subscribe, and maybe donate to me on Patreon to find out more about what I'm getting up to in my little world of creativity. See you later!